In the highlands of central Mexico, where volcanoes kissed the clouds and lakes shimmered like obsidian mirrors, an empire once rose from the mud and blood of ancient civilizations. It was an empire built on war, tribute, sacrifice, and myth. The Aztecs called themselves the Mexica, and they believed their god had led them to a promised land. What they built there would become one of the most powerful and feared empires in the pre-Columbian world. But just as swiftly as they rose, they would fall, shattered not only by Spanish steel and gunpowder, but by betrayal, disease, and the relentless wheel of history. How could an empire of millions fall to just a few hundred invaders? Join us on a journey through temples, conquest, glory, and destruction. The story begins long before the Aztecs became empire builders. Around 1100 CE, the Mexica were nomads, wandering central Mexico after the collapse of earlier Mesoamerican civilizations like Teotihuacan and the Toltecs. Despised by neighboring tribes, the Mexica were seen as uncultured, primitive. They were often pushed aside, settling in swamps and unwanted lands. But they believed they were chosen by Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and the sun, who told them in a prophecy, "Find the eagle, perched on a cactus, devouring a serpent. There you will build your city." And so in 1325, on a swampy island in Lake Texcoco, they saw the vision. There, they built Tenochtitlan, the Venice of the Americas. Empire of blood and gold. Over the next century, the Mexica evolved from vassals into conquerors. Under rulers like Itzcoatl and Ahuitzotl, the Aztecs waged war, forging alliances with nearby city-states like Texcoco and Tlacopan, forming the Triple Alliance. Their armies thundered through the Valley of Mexico, subjugating rivals, demanding tribute, feathers, gold, jade, maize, and most ominously, people. Human sacrifice was not mere cruelty. It was cosmology. To the Aztecs, the sun required nourishment. Without blood offerings, the cosmos would collapse. Thousands were sacrificed atop the Templo Mayor, their hearts offered to the gods as drums echoed across the city. Tenochtitlan grew into a metropolis of 200,000 people, clean, organized, with floating gardens called chinampas, advanced aqueducts, bustling markets, and grand temples. Their might seemed unstoppable, but deep beneath the golden mask of power, fault lines were forming. Rebellions stirred, and strangers were sailing toward their shores. The omens and the strangers. According to Aztec lore, omens plagued the empire before the strangers arrived. Flames in the sky, a weeping woman who wandered the streets. The temple of Huitzilopochtli caught fire spontaneously. Even Emperor Moctezuma II was haunted by visions of doom. In 1519, the Spanish arrived. Led by Hernán Cortés, 500 conquistadors, along with horses and cannons, stepped onto the Gulf Coast. To the Aztecs, they seemed divine, perhaps even the return of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, as legend foretold. Moctezuma sent gifts, gold, jade, and robes. But to Cortés, it only whetted his appetite. He allied with the Tlaxcalans, bitter enemies of the Aztecs. He marched inland, leaving destruction in his wake, reaching Tenochtitlan in November 1519. To the disbelief of his men, Moctezuma welcomed Cortés, not with swords, but with ceremony. Why would the mightiest emperor of Mesoamerica kneel before a foreigner? Was it all, or something deeper? Betrayal and nightfall. Tensions rose quickly. Cortés took Moctezuma hostage in his palace, a political puppet. When Cortés briefly left the city to confront a Spanish rival, his lieutenant, Pedro de Alvarado, massacred Aztec nobles during a religious festival. The city exploded in rebellion. Cortés returned to chaos. Moctezuma, trying to calm his people, was hit with stones and died shortly after, perhaps murdered, perhaps executed. The Spanish fled Tenochtitlan in the dead of night on La Noche Triste, the night of sorrows. Hundreds drowned in the canals, laden with stolen gold. But they would return. In 1521, with thousands of native allies, Cortés laid siege to the city. Disease, starvation, and betrayal decimated the Aztecs. The lakes turned red. Bodies floated in the canals. For 93 days, Tenochtitlan held out. But on August 13th, 1521, the last emperor, Cuauhtémoc, was captured. The empire had fallen. With the emperor's capture, the city burned. But did the Aztecs truly vanish, or did their spirit endure? Legacy of an empire. Though the empire collapsed, the Aztec legacy refused to die. Their descendants live on in Mexico. Their language, Nahuatl, still echoes in words like chocolate, avocado, and coyote. Their temples lie beneath modern-day Mexico City, unearthed stone by stone. Their culture endures through art, cuisine, festivals, and memory. However, the fall of the Aztecs also marked a turning point in global history. The conquest ushered in the Spanish Empire, colonization, and the destruction of entire civilizations. Yet, as we uncover their temples, their codices, and their stories, one truth becomes clear. The Aztecs were never just savages, nor were they saints. They were architects of a world as complex and magnificent as any. The rise and fall of the Aztec Empire is more than a tale of conquest. It's a mirror, a reflection of how power is won, lost, and remembered. So next time you hear of blood-drenched altars and golden cities, remember the human stories beneath them. Stories of ambition, belief, betrayal, and resilience. And if you found this story powerful, like, comment, and importantly, subscribe to my channel, Cyber Theo. History is not just about the past. It's about understanding who we are and who we might become.